let's talk about how a massive, multi-billion-dollar tech deal basically turned into a huge cautionary tale. This is the story of Meta and a startup called Manus AI, and honestly, it shines a massive spotlight on a new kind of geopolitical risk that, frankly, every business using AI needs to wrap its head around, like yesterday. So, let's break down what happened.
The whole story really starts with one number, and it's a number that makes you sit up and pay attention. $2 billion. That was the price tag. So right from the get-go, you know the stakes were incredibly high for everybody involved.
So who were the players here? Well, on one side, you've got Meta, obviously one of the biggest names in tech. And on the other, you have Manus AI, a startup that was absolutely on fire, building these specialized AI agents. I mean, on the surface, this was the dream, right? Build something incredible, grow at lightning speed, and then get bought for a fortune. The ultimate success story. So let's really dig into the anatomy of this deal first. I mean, just how successful was Manus AI, and what made them such a must-have acquisition for a giant like Meta? Well, the speed of their growth was just staggering. Manus AI hit $100 million in annual recurring revenue in only 8 months. 8. And their AI agents, for things like market research and coding, they weren't just some cool new tool. They became absolutely mission critical for their customers almost overnight. It's kind of the perfect example of how fast your business can become totally dependent on a brand new AI vendor. But just when everything looked perfect, just as the deal was about to get signed, the whole thing hit a massive, and I mean completely unexpected roadblock. A bottleneck that came straight from Beijing. And here's the real twist in the story. See, Manus AI thought they had done everything by the book to avoid exactly this kind of problem. They moved their entire team from Beijing to Singapore. They got US funding, they made sure there was no continuing Chinese ownership. They literally checked every single box to be seen as a global, independent company. Or so it seemed. But this quote from Dai Menhao, an expert in this field, just cuts right to the heart of the whole issue. He said, "The technology, not the corporate registration, determines jurisdiction." And that's the whole ballgame. It didn't matter where the company was registered now. What mattered was where the technology was born. And this timeline just shows you how fast a company's past can catch up with it. Summer of 2025, Manus moves. A few months later, Meta announces this huge deal. And then, boom, just a few weeks after that, China's Ministry of Commerce steps in and puts the brakes on the whole thing. Okay, so that leads us to the big question. Why? How could this even happen? This next part is all about China's regulatory reach and how a vendor's history can end up defining its future, no matter where it is in the world today. I mean, this is the central question, isn't it? It seems kind of weird. How can Beijing claim it has any say over a deal between an American company and a Singaporean one? Well, turns out the answer is based on a framework that goes way beyond where your headquarters is. It all boils down to these 3 pillars. You can think of them as the legal foundation for China's claim here. You've got export controls on the tech itself, you've got data security rules about how the AI was trained, and you have regulations about overseas investments made by Chinese nationals. Let's break each one of those down. So, first up, export controls. The key thing to get here is that Beijing considers advanced AI to be a strategic asset. And if that tech was developed on Chinese soil, they believe they have jurisdiction over it. It doesn't matter if the company moves to Singapore or San Francisco or the moon. The origin of the intellectual property is what counts. The second pillar is data security. Think about it. To train a powerful AI model, you need to feed it just unbelievable amounts of data. Well, if that training happened in China, using Chinese data, moving that model across the border requires a thumbs up from regulators. Again, it's not about where the AI is running now, it's about where it went to school. And the final pillar, it's about the people. When Chinese nationals transfer valuable technology out of the country, even if it's part of a totally legitimate move to a new headquarters, the government can look back on that transfer and decide, even years later, that it should have been cleared by them first. Okay, so that's the what and the why of what happened. Now let's get to the most important part. What do you do about it? Because this whole situation basically creates a brand new playbook for due diligence. Let's look at the questions every single enterprise buyer has to start asking their AI vendors right now. And this is the absolute bottom line here. The old way of checking out your vendors is now dangerously out of date. Asking about data residency or service level agreements, still important, sure, but it's not nearly enough. The Manus case proves there's this massive geopolitical blind spot that most of us have.
So you have to start asking some tougher questions, starting with the technology's origin story. You've got to get past the slick sales pitch and ask directly, where was the core algorithm actually built? Which country's laws might apply to it? And what's the nationality of the key people who developed it?
Next, you need to see the paper trail. If the company relocated, you need to see the receipts. You need to ask them to prove they got the right approvals and the right export licenses. And this one is huge. Ask them what their plan B is. What happens to your service if a regulator pops up and challenges a move they made years ago?
And finally, you have to connect all these kind of abstract risks to your actual day-to-day business. How would an investigation like this impact the service you're paying for? What are they legally required to tell you, and when? And are they even financially prepared for this kind of thing, or is it going to sink them and take your operations down too? So let's zoom out for this last section, because this really isn't just about one deal, not by a long shot. The outcome of this whole Meta Manus review is going to set a major precedent. It's going to send ripples across the entire global AI industry. You can really see two very different futures for the AI industry branching out from this one case. If the deal gets a smooth approval, well, it creates a playbook for other startups to try and sidestep geopolitical tensions. But if regulators step in and block it, that escape route gets shut down. It sends a really powerful message that Beijing will follow its tech wherever it goes, and that just ratchets up the risk for everybody. And as Winston Ma from NYU points out, this is a huge test case. This is about way more than just one company. It's about China defining the reach of its power over strategic technology in a globalized world. You can bet the outcome is being watched very, very closely. So if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The definition of AI vendor risk has changed, fundamentally. It's not just about what's in the contract anymore. You now have to become a detective and investigate the murky, complicated origins of both the technology you're buying and the talent that built it. And that leaves us all with a pretty critical question to think about. After hearing all this, how well do you really know where the AI tools you depend on actually come from? Is it possible that your AI supply chain is way more exposed to this new world of geopolitical risk than you think?